A girl's plea. Stops a royal guard. What he found in the van will chill you. Buckle up for a story that'll grip your heart and leave you speechless. Outside Buckingham Palace, where tourists swarm and royal guards stand like statues, a chilling drama unfolded. 9-year-old Emma Thompson, her eyes wide with fear, paced nervously, drawn toward a white van parked 100 feet away. Its engine hummed, its driver's shifty gaze locked on her. One honk, sharp, deliberate, froze her in place, her steps turning robotic, like prey caught in a trap. But Staff Sergeant John Carter, a 45-year-old veteran with Afghan-honed instincts, saw what no one else did. Breaking centuries of protocol, he bolted from his post, boots pounding, voice cutting through the crowd. "Miss, step back." What he found inside that van will chill you to the bone. Duct tape, zip ties, a child's backpack, tools of a predator's trade. Carter, defying orders, stood 10 feet from danger, a human shield for Emma, facing down a parolee with a dark past. Sirens screamed, police swarmed, and a second suspect's desperate sprint ended in cuffs. Emma, missing for days, went home because one guard trusted his gut. This isn't just a rescue, it's a wake-up call. Danger hides in plain sight. Want to know how it all went down? Stick around, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. This story's just the start. It was a bright, bustling morning outside Buckingham Palace. The kind of day where tourists swarmed like bees, their phones flashing, kids giggling, all chasing that perfect snapshot of London's grandeur. The air buzzed with excitement, the crowd pressing against velvet ropes, mesmerized by the red-coated guards standing like statues. But something felt off, a faint whisper of trouble slicing through the chatter. 9-year-old Emma Thompson, a small figure in a navy hoodie, lingered at the crowd's edge, her arms crossed tight, her eyes darting nervously. She wasn't snapping photos or pointing at the towering soldiers. Instead, she paced, anxious, her sneakers scuffing the pavement, her gaze flickering toward a white van parked 100 feet away, just across the street. The van hadn't moved in over half an hour, its engine idling, a faint hum blending with the city's pulse. Behind the wheel sat a man, unshaven, his fingers tapping the steering wheel, his eyes scanning the crowd. To most, it was just another delivery van, but not to Staff Sergeant John Carter, a 45-year-old Coldstream Guard with 20 years of battle-hardened instincts. Stationed at the southeast gate, his face was stone, his posture rigid, but his eyes were a hawk's, sweeping the scene for anything out of place. 2 tours in Afghanistan and a chest full of medals had taught him one truth. Danger doesn't shout, it slinks, quiet and sly. That van, with its faded logo and unmoving wheels, was screaming trouble in a language only Carter could hear. Emma's pacing grew methodical, her small frame weaving through the crowd's edge, checking faces, glancing back at the van every few steps. She wasn't lost, not in the way kids usually are, wandering aimlessly. Her movements were deliberate, like a soldier on patrol, but her eyes betrayed fear, wide and searching. Carter's grip tightened on his rifle strap, his pulse quickening. Then it happened. A single honk, sharp and deliberate, cutting through the noise. Emma froze, her shoulders stiffening, her face draining of color. She turned toward the van, her steps no longer hesitant but robotic, as if pulled by an invisible string. She was 10 feet from the curb, heading straight for the open road, straight for that van. Carter's heart pounded, a steady drum of warning. He'd seen enough in his years to know this wasn't a family pickup. The van, the honk, the girl's rigid walk, it all screamed wrong. Tourists gasped as he broke formation, his boots hitting the pavement with purpose, crossing the barrier in seconds. "Miss, step back from the road," he called, his voice calm but firm, slicing through the crowd's murmur. Emma hesitated, her lips trembling, her eyes locking onto his. In that moment, John Carter wasn't just a guard. He was a shield, standing between a little girl and a nightmare waiting to unfold. As the white van's honk pierced the morning air, pulling 9-year-old Emma Thompson toward its open door like a moth to a flame, Staff Sergeant John Carter felt the weight of 20 years' experience snap into focus. The scene from moments ago, Emma's anxious pacing, her fearful glances, the van's unmoving menace 100 feet away, had already set his instincts ablaze. Now, with the crowd's chatter fading into a distant hum, Carter's world narrowed to one truth. This was no innocent rendezvous. Danger had shown its face, and he wasn't about to let it win. Carter, a 45-year-old Coldstream guard, wasn't just a ceremonial figure in a red coat. He was a warrior, forged in the crucible of 2 Afghan tours, his chest heavy with medals that spoke of split-second decisions under fire. His training screamed protocol, stand still, stay silent, but his gut roared louder. Emma's robotic steps, her small frame rigid as she crossed the 10 feet toward the curb, weren't those of a child meeting family. They were the movements of someone trapped, coerced, her fear as clear as the London sky above. Logic stitched the pieces together. The van's idling engine, the driver's shifty eyes, the single deliberate honk. This was a predator's trap, and Emma was the prey. With the precision of a man who'd faced death and walked away, Carter broke formation, his boots striking the pavement like a war drum. The crowd gasped, phones swiveling to capture the unthinkable. A royal guard moving, acting, defying centuries of tradition. "Miss, step back from the road," he called, his voice a steady anchor through the chaos, calm yet unyielding. Emma froze, her eyes locking onto his, a silent plea shimmering within them. Carter's mind raced, analyzing every detail. The van's faded logo, mismatched for any legitimate delivery. The driver's nervous tapping, betraying intent. Emma's trembling lips, mouthing a cry for help. Each clue reinforced his resolve. This wasn't a hunch. It was a calculated stand. His hand hovered near his radio, fingers brushing the clasp of his rifle strap, ready but restrained. He pressed the button, voice granite solid. "Control, Sentinel-2 at East Gate, potential child safety concern." White van, 100 feet from position, 1 minor female involved, alert security. The response crackled back, swift and professional, but Carter's focus never wavered. He stepped closer, positioning himself as a human shield between Emma and the van, now just 10 feet away. The driver leaned out, his fake smile crumbling under Carter's unrelenting stare. In that moment, John Carter wasn't just guarding a palace, he was guarding a life, his every move a testament to courage over protocol, instinct over tradition. As Staff Sergeant John Carter planted himself between 9-year-old Emma Thompson and the white van just 10 feet away, his steady voice, "Miss, step back from the road," still echoed in the stunned silence of the Buckingham Palace crowd. The moment he'd broken formation, defying centuries of protocol with boots pounding like a heartbeat, had shifted the air. Now, with his hawk-like eyes locked on the driver, Robert Hayes, Carter stood as an unyielding wall, his instincts screaming that this was no misunderstanding. The van's engine purred ominously, and Emma's trembling plea for help fueled his resolve. This wasn't just a guard's duty, it was a battle line drawn in broad daylight. Hayes leaned out, his fake smile cracking like thin ice, his voice dripping with false charm. "She's my niece, officer. Just got spooked in the crowd," he called, palms raised in a mockery of innocence. But Carter, a 45-year-old veteran whose Afghan tours had honed his ability to spot lies, wasn't buying it. Emma's rigid posture, her knuckles white as she clutched her hoodie, told a different story, one of fear, not family. Carter's gaze flicked to the van's interior, a crumpled fast food bag, a tattered road atlas, and glinting in the shadows a strip of duct tape and a coil of zip ties. His blood ran cold. These weren't tools for a road trip, they were a kidnapper's kit. "Step away from the vehicle," Carter commanded, his voice a low, steady growl, carrying the weight of 20 years' authority. Hayes's eyes narrowed, his fingers twitching near the gear shift. "You're making a mistake, mate," he snapped, his tone sharpening like a blade. Carter's hand drifted to his radio, his words precise. "Control, Sentinel-2. Driver non-compliant. Suspicious materials visible. Escalate response." The crowd, now a sea of phones and whispers, sensed the stakes rising. Emma pressed closer to Carter, her small frame shaking, her lips barely forming the words, "He's not my uncle." Logic anchored Carter's every move. Hayes's lack of proof, Emma's clear denial, and the damning items in plain sight painted a grim picture. This wasn't a lost child. It was a calculated abduction attempt, and Carter's stand was the only thing holding it at bay. He stepped closer, now just 5 feet from the van, his shadow swallowing Hayes's false calm. "Engine off." "Hands on the dashboard," he ordered, rifle braced but not raised, a final warning etched in his stance. Hayes's smirk faltered, his eyes darting to the open road. The tension crackled like a storm about to break, and Carter knew one wrong move, and this could explode. In that moment, he wasn't just a guard. He was Emma's last line of defense, staring down a predator in the heart of London. As the standoff outside Buckingham Palace teetered on a razor's edge, Staff Sergeant John Carter's unyielding command, "Engine off, hands on the dashboard," hung in the air like a taut wire. The confrontation with Robert Hayes, whose false charm had crumbled under Carter's piercing gaze just 5 feet from the white van, had electrified the crowd. Emma Thompson, 9 years old and trembling, clung to Carter's shadow, her whispered denial, "He's not my uncle," still ringing in his ears. The duct tape and zip ties glinting inside the van confirmed Carter's fears. This was no family reunion, but a predator's gambit. Now, with Hayes's hand hovering near the gear shift, Carter's next move would decide everything. With the instincts of a 45-year-old veteran honed by 2 Afghan tours, Carter acted like lightning. His fingers pressed the radio, voice steady as steel. "Control, Sentinel-2. Driver resisting." "Child restraint materials confirmed. Request immediate backup." The response crackled. "Copy. Dispatching now." But Carter didn't wait. He stepped forward, closing the gap to 3 feet, his rifle braced, eyes never leaving Hayes. The crowd, a sea of phones and gasps, sensed the storm brewing. Emma's small hand grazed Carter's tunic, her fear a silent plea driving his resolve. Logic fueled his urgency. Hayes's refusal to comply, the incriminating items, and Emma's terror pointed to one truth. An abduction was seconds from unfolding. Hayes's eyes flicked to the open road, his knuckles whitening on the wheel. "You're out of your depth, guard," he snarled, revving the engine. The van lurched forward a foot, tires squealing. Carter didn't flinch. "Stop the vehicle!" he roared, voice booming like thunder, planting himself dead center between Emma and danger. The crowd shouted, "Move back!" But Carter held his ground. A human fortress. Sirens wailed in the distance, closing in fast. Within moments, 2 police cars screeched to a halt 50 feet away, officers spilling out, hands on sidearms. A palace security officer sprinted to Carter's side, eyes wide. "Guard report," he barked. Carter's voice was ice. "Attempted child abduction, driver uncooperative. Restraint materials visible." The lead officer shouted, "Driver, kill the engine, hands up!" Hayes's smirk vanished, his shoulders tensing. Then chaos erupted. The van's rear doors flew open, a second man, hooded, wiry, leaping out, bolting across the pavement. A detective tackled him within 20 feet, rope spilling from his jacket, a child's backpack hitting the ground. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Carter's jaw tightened, his rifle steady, shielding Emma as officers swarmed the van, yanking Hayes from the driver's seat. Blood streaked Hayes's face from shattered glass, but Carter's focus never wavered. He'd stopped a nightmare, his swift action turning the tide, proving one man's courage could outmatch evil in the heart of London. As the chaos outside Buckingham Palace erupted into a storm of sirens and shattered glass, Staff Sergeant John Carter stood resolute, his rifle steady, shielding 9-year-old Emma Thompson from the white van's menace just 3 feet away. The scene from moments ago, Robert Hayes's desperate lurch forward, the second suspect's failed sprint, and the police's swift takedown within 20 feet had unfolded like a battlefield clash. Now, with Hayes pinned against the van's hood, blood streaking his face, and the hooded accomplice cuffed on the pavement, the air settled into an eerie calm. Carter's quick actions had slammed the door on a nightmare, but the weight of what he'd stopped was just beginning to sink in. Emma crumpled to her knees behind him, her small frame shaking, not with loud sobs but with quiet, broken whimpers, as if fear had drained her voice. Carter knelt, his hand gentle on her shoulder, his voice soft yet firm. "You're safe now, Emma. No one's taking you anywhere." Logic had guided his every move. Hayes's lies, the duct tape and zip ties, Emma's whispered denial, all pointed to a chilling truth. This was an abduction thwarted at the 11th hour. The police, now swarming the van 50 feet from the palace gates, uncovered more. A child's backpack with a name tag, more rope, a half-empty juice carton. These weren't family road trip supplies. They were tools of a predator's trade. The lead officer approached, his face pale. "Sergeant, you stopped something horrific," he said, voice low. Carter didn't nod, his focus still on Emma, now wrapped in a police blanket despite the warm air. Later, the story unraveled. Emma Thompson, missing for 2 days from a park 60 miles away in Kent, had been lured by Hayes, a 47-year-old parolee with a rap sheet for targeting minors. He'd claimed to be a family friend, twisting her fear to keep her silent. The second man, unidentified, carried tools for another grab, hinting at a broader trafficking web. Carter's intervention had saved not just Emma, but potentially others. By afternoon, Carter returned to his post, rifle at rest, uniform crisp, as if nothing had happened. Tourists resumed their chatter, unaware that a hero stood among them. Yet hours later, Emma and her mother arrived at the gates. Emma's small hand tugged her mother's sleeve, her voice a whisper. "That's him, Mom. He saw me." Her mother's eyes welled, a silent thank you forming on her lips. Carter couldn't move, bound by protocol, but his slight head tilt spoke volumes. Emma's nod back, small but certain, carried a promise she'd never forget. For Carter, a 45-year-old father and soldier, that was enough. His name wouldn't make headlines, but Emma was home, safe, because one man trusted his gut over rules, proving courage could change everything in a single, heart-stopping moment. As the sun dipped low over Buckingham Palace, casting long shadows across the gates where 9-year-old Emma Thompson had nodded her quiet thanks to Staff Sergeant John Carter, the weight of that day's events lingered like a storm's aftershock. The chaos of hours before, Hayes's bloodied face pinned to the van's hood 50 feet away, the second suspect's desperate sprint halted within 20 feet, and Emma's trembling frame safe at last, had faded into a story etched in courage. Carter, a 45-year-old soldier, returned to his post, his uniform crisp, his face unreadable, but his actions had rewritten a little girl's fate. Beyond the rescue, a deeper truth emerged, one that demanded to be heard. Carter's stand wasn't just about saving Emma. It was a beacon, illuminating the power of instinct over rigid rules. His Afghan-honed senses had spotted danger in a van parked 100 feet away, in Emma's fearful steps, in Hayes's lies. Logic drove his defiance. Protocol binds, but lives matter more. When he broke formation, his boots hitting the pavement like a call to arms, he proved that courage isn't blind. It's calculated, rooted in seeing what others miss. The duct tape, the zip ties, the second backpack in the van weren't random. They were proof of a predator's plan, stopped because one man trusted his gut. This wasn't pageantry. It was protection, raw and real. The broader lesson cuts deeper, sharp as a blade. Carter's actions, saving Emma from a trafficking web 60 miles from her Kent home, scream for vigilance. Danger doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, hiding in a van on a busy street, in a child's hesitant walk. Hayes, a parolee with a history of preying on minors, thrived on society's blind spots. Carter's story challenges us. Would you notice a child's fear in a crowd? Would you act or look away? His choice to prioritize Emma over tradition underscores a truth Americans hold dear. Individual action can shift the tide, turning a moment of peril into one of salvation. This tale also redefines the Royal Guard's role. Beyond ceremonial splendor, they're sentinels, trained to protect, their stillness a facade for razor-sharp awareness. Carter, a father and soldier, embodied this, his stand a testament to duty beyond the uniform. Emma's nod, her mother's tearful gratitude, carried a weight no medal could match. For every guard like Carter, there's a story untold, a life preserved. So, pause and reflect. When instinct screams, will you listen? Will you move? Because sometimes the line between tragedy and triumph is one person's refusal to stay silent, proving that heroes don't need headlines. They need heart, and Carter's beat loud enough to save a child's future. Wow, what a story. John Carter's courage saved 9-year-old Emma Thompson from a nightmare, proving one person's instinct can change everything. Now we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us, where are you watching this from? Is it New York's hustle, a quiet Midwest town, or somewhere across the globe? Your stories light up our channel. Think about Carter's split-second choice to break protocol. Have you ever spotted something off in a crowd and acted, or wished you had? What would you do in his boots, standing 10 feet from danger to protect a child? His story challenges us to stay vigilant, to trust our gut when it screams. If this tale opened your eyes to the real heroes behind the Royal Guard's red coats, smash that like button to show your respect. Don't miss tomorrow's gripping story. Hit subscribe and ring the bell to join our daily dive into courage and heart.
Share this video with someone who needs to see what one person can do. Let's keep this conversation alive. Comment now, and let's honor the unsung heroes among us.